something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stopped, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Hello, one and all,
Hello.
and welcome to the triumphant return of day release.
Yeah.
With me, Clive Davis, and my very good pal over there,
Robin. Hello.
Right.
I forgot you did the Ronnie Barker thing every time. I leave an awkward.
And it's good night from me.
Hello. I don't think I can do a Ronnie Barker impression.
I think you were trying to do Ronnie Corbett there, weren't you?
Oh yeah, whoever. Yeah.
Ronnie Barker's the big one.
Yeah, on the small one.
We're both pretty small.
No, I'm not going to try. I'd have to watch it
Oh.
or watch Steve. Yeah, you find it. I can't do any words.
Yeah.
Can't do the words.
Anyway,
Yep.
you'll be pleased to hear, viewer, that this isn't an impersonation podcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to stop that now, and instead we're going to talk 3 recent releases, right?
Yep.
Movie releases. What will we be talking about? Robin, over to you.
And we'll be talking about Red Rocket and Coffin Homes and RRR, which that would be probably, ironically, the most known video that we're talking about RRR now at this point, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know it was huge in India itself, but I'm guessing it's been a hit with the diaspora in the UK as well, right?
Yeah, well, at least within white audiences as well, you know. Or,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
So because,
Oh, okay.
but it was, you know, not. I don't know the extent of it, but it's top the you know, the best or the top of Netflix. You know, most watched
Of course, it's
in
on
terms
Netflix
of
as well, isn't it?
yeah, in terms of most watched non-American films, whatever you want to call it. Anyway,
Right.
let's talk about Red Rocket first, then, shall we?
Yes. So all of these films, as you know, they're all. The idea here is they're all. We try and it's an excuse for us to, because we're not very good at keeping up with new releases, are we? So this is kind of an excuse to do so. So these are all either late 2021 or 2022 releases. Right?
Yeah. And yeah, it's getting quite. We got a good overview so far of
Right.
2021 films. I feel
Right.
a good good catalogue of films we've watched so far in terms of
Yeah.
the
This is an interesting little selection as well, I think, this
Yeah.
time. So yeah, Red Rocket, as directed, co-written, produced, and edited by Sean Baker, who I'm a little bit of a fan of. I don't know if you're familiar with any of his other movies.
No, but I realised then that the Florida Project, I had that on my wish list type thing.
Okay.
My to watch list. I hadn't got around to watching it, but yeah, I'd put that on ages ago. I don't know. Is it? Yeah, is that the Florida Project? Is that sort of like filmed in a particular style and with colours and something? Or is in its kind of disjointed style? I can't remember.
Well, it's very much kind of, it has that slight cine verite kind of shot on the hoof kind of style, and yeah, it's set in like a housing project, which is kind of almost in the shadow of Disneyland, right, or World, whichever one is in Florida, I don't remember. But I remember enjoying that a great deal, and like this, and the other Sean Baker film that I'm familiar with, which I also really liked, which was a Tangerine,
yeah,
which was famously, all shot on like a phone or something, right, with a anamorphic lens, and But what I think Sean Baker does quite well, and we'll get to this specific film in it, but in general, what I like about him is his use of like professional actors and non-actors, and I I think that creates some weird kind of dynamic kind of disconnect between different acting styles, which I think is quite interesting. But if you talk to Ron, for instance, Ron doesn't like that at all.
No, why not?
He doesn't like that. All right, he thinks that it results in a kind of weird inconsistency, or like that kind of gets on his nerves more. Whereas I quite like to see professionals rubbing up against non-professionals.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have actually known. I don't think that any of them were non-professional. I'm trying to think if anyone was. Well, obviously there's the Lexi's mum, Lil. Yeah, she seemed like she might have been. I don't know. Dare I say, just herself. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No. To be fair, I might be wrong. I mean, I didn't look up every particular person in great detail, but
look her up.
That's not non-professional might not be the right word. I suppose more like,
yeah, she's only been in that
established and raw. Like
yeah, she's only been in that in Red Rocket.
Like the main star of Florida Project, for instance, Sean Baker famously kind of just discovered her on, I think it was Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Like she'd never done anything before, and you can tell she's very unpolished, but she's really good in it.
Yeah.
And I felt that way with Susanna Son.
Yeah.
Right.
She was a really good actress, though. I thought
she
was really good.
But naturally, I think, right?
Like, yeah, naturally good, but also, like, I don't know, some of the stuff she had to act in that was very subtle and really hard to.
It's a difficult role, I think.
Yeah. I thought she did really, really well in that. But do you want to go through the plot, or do you want me to do whatever?
I can do it. I can do it quick. Huh?
Nothing.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it now, and that means you have to do Coffin Homes, which is more difficult.
Shit. Damn.
Well said.
Yeah. Well done. Go on then.
So Simon Rex plays I suppose he's a bit of a washed up former porn star, right, who returns from LA to his it's a small town in Texas called Texas City, which looks like it's, I guess, somewhere near Galveston on like the Gulf Coast there.
Yeah.
And they mentioned the Texas killing fields as well briefly, right?
Right, they do, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's somewhere around there, and it seems like a bit of a, I don't know, Rust Belt, economically kind of depressed place. There's all these, although they still at least do have working factories, right? Because they're constantly in the background, right? Like churning out.
Yeah,
smoke.
It's also very noisy. The first thing you notice about the film is how noisy it is. I don't know whether that's just because they filmed it, like you're saying, varieté style, including sound, or what's going on there with that. I don't know. But lots of noise.
The inhabitants do seem very much in the shadow of like all this industrial stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel as if it was particularly. Well, I mean, there are all these kind of allusions to Trump and stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that part of the film worked a little bit less well for me in terms of I don't know if they were just setting the scene or trying,
Yeah.
but
Oh well, go on with the plot anyway, because
yeah. So basically, he
whatever it
returns
is, yeah.
town, and he's very much a kind of motor mouthed kind of coercive kind of guy, right?
Yeah, bullshitter, basically.
Yeah, and he manages to worm his way back in to this little house where his not even his ex-wife, it turns out they're still married, right? Lives with her mother, and she's also a former porn star, right?
His mum. Oh
No,
his wife, is a former
Yeah.
porn star, yeah.
Yeah.
They
So basically, he kind of talks his way back in there and slowly kind of rekindles. Well, from her point of view, he thinks that he might be back to stay, and he's changed his ways, and the sex is great and all that. But secretly, he's he gets back into slinging weed for some local dealers as well, right?
Yeah.
And while in a donut shop, the donut hall, there's Sean Baker seems to like donut shops. There's a donut shop is very important in Tangerine as well.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the action takes place in a donut place.
Oh, 'cause as a quick aside, I saw an interview about the film. He said, they were going to do it in a little burger van. She was going to be a burger van girl, and then they drove past that donut shop, and they said, "What the hell? This is exactly." And I can see why. It's got a very distinct, indie film look about it. I mean, you couldn't have found a better indie film donut shop if you.
Right. Yeah. I can't imagine
well.
this working with a burger van somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So but it's also, it adds a lot of stuff that would have been missing, but yeah, it's also called the donut hole, which is sort of vaguely sexual, isn't it?
So anyway, he finds this 17-year-old played by Susanna Son, which like we said is a excellent piece of casting. She's so right for this role. The character's supposed to be not quite 18 years old yet. She's actually, I think, 24 or something in real life, but she certainly does look 17.
Yeah.
And basically he grooms her with the idea of that he'll go back to LA with her as his big new find and rekindle his and I suppose that's the main kind of trajectory of the plot, right? I mean, we may or may not get into spoilers, but I mean, it doesn't go the way he expects, right?
No, it's well, that'll do, won't it? For
I think so. I think that's enough to.
I mean, it's I mean, the first thing that strikes you was, other than the sound, was the like how the inciting incident in the beginning has already happened in your so whatever it is that's driven him there to Texas has already happened, and you don't know what it is. And the whole film, and you'll be able to speak to this a bit better as in terms of Sean Baker, how it's kind of like everything a bit like what's that film? I've forgotten the film with, oh my god, here we go again. The guy from Star Wars who plays Kylo Ren, I've forgotten his name. The big tall one with dark hair. Where's his name?
Oh, I haven't seen, but I think you're talking about Adam.
Oh, Adam Driver. Yeah. There's a film. I just want to see if you've seen this film and see if it I'll just quickly. Where he's a bus driver.
Oh no, I haven't. I know what you mean. It's called something like Starbuck or isn't it the name of a town or?
it's going to take ages to find it, maybe. Yeah, but that film
I haven't seen it though. But
is similar in a way because it has this sort of it uses the tropes of cinema, the dramatic tropes of cinema, like the spaces and the pauses and things, to make it feel like something bad's going to happen the whole way through, or or things to load things with information that then plays with your expectations.
Patterson is the film you're
that's
thinking
it.
of.
Yeah. I was bloody looking at it as well. Yeah, and then that film like has no sort of inciting incident in a way, but then I don't want to give away the the shock ending, but the shock ending is I don't know, maybe I can. It's quite old. Well, the shock ending is that his book of poems gets sort of, I think, chewed up by a dog or something. So that's like that's the big like thing that happens towards the end of that film, and and that's what everything's sort of building up to that, and you don't know, so you're loading everything with like all of these kind of ideas that I don't know, maybe he's gonna go on a killing spree, or or maybe he's gonna get shot or something like that.
Yeah, in the same way here, something kind of comes out of left field to change the narrative. As a quick aside, it just occurred to me, considering that it's like one of the big cliches when you were a kid, like, that. I don't think I have ever, when I was in school, I don't remember a kid ever claiming that a dog ate his homework. Do you ever remember that actually happening when you were a kid?
No.
No.
I think we all thought about it. Yeah.
It must have happened sometime, right?
Yeah, no. And then there's always a story but a dog did actually eat his homework. I don't think those are true either.
Right.
The ones where...
So maybe what we're saying is that dog has never, ever eaten homework.
No.
In the history of the world.
No, it didn't happen.
If a dog has eaten your homework, let us know.
Yeah,
Daily.
in the comments.
Yeah. Comments below.
Yeah. I had a dog that was a half... what was it? A half Rottweiler, half a puppy that my mum got. A half Rottweiler or Rottweiler, whatever you call it, and a half Doberman. And that fucking thing would have eaten our homework until we got rid of it. And it was one of those ones where I was telling my son about it the other day, and I said, "Oh, what happened to the dog?" And I realised my mum, it went. She shot it.
Yeah.
But we had it for about a week, and it just ate everything. Like all day. I had this conversation because my son was saying, pit bulls are, people think they're bad, but he's got this from YouTube, but they're actually, they're actually lovely and sweet and stuff like that. Yeah. But they can kind of kill them.
Yeah. It's kind of like the whole thing about, sharks probably aren't really dangerous, but I'm not going anywhere near one.
Yeah,
sea.
Or the the lion whisperer people, or that bear guy. Hey bear.
Oh, the grizzly man.
Yeah. Hey bear. Yeah. Sorry, we shouldn't laugh, but for fuck's sake, come on.
Yeah, but it's all right because, as we know, all dogs go to heaven, so don't worry about it. It's fine. Anyway, back to Red Rocket. I mean, So I mean, in general, what did you make of Red Rocket? We can talk about specifics after.
Well, I thought it was actually, funny enough, we had George on last month, and it was almost like a George film in a way that it was a character-driven piece. I think George gets a bit more plot in there. I sort of liked, I like the way it culminates in, like, having this, the inciting incident or whatever happened to him before the film, you don't ever get to really know, and then you never get to know what's going to happen to him after because
Right.
the film you're watching is the inciting incident for the next chapter of his life, you know. So whereas a standard film is, you know, supposed to have an inciting incident and then have, you know, that change your life irreparably towards the end or whatever, and then you end, you know, feeling satisfied that nothing's going to change ever again. This film, it's sort of like you know, the way it was plotted in a way was almost, it was just different in that way, that you have this all this information that's happened and they allude to it, but he's always bullshitting, so you never know what, you know, what it is that's actually happened. And then
what did you make of like, in terms of what I thought was kind of quite interesting was you're more or less on side with he's kind of a bit of a lovable rogue type, right? But then as the film progresses and it kind of slowly dawns on you, like, what a piece of shit he is in some ways. Yeah, I find that kind of interesting because I still didn't quite totally hate him at the end, but he's responsible for so much collateral damage and so much more potential, because the ending as well, right? Like, the ending is clearly some kind of, I don't know if that's in his head or something, right? But the very ending,
it's a bit strange, that bit. Hard to know what to make of that. But he's got this kind of he's always explaining himself and always explaining you know, the reasons why this happened to him or that happened to him, and you know, so it plays with your willingness to go along with someone just like the other characters are in his life, you know. So as an audience, you're kind of like willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in some ways, but you know he's bullshitting, but you don't know to what extent, you know, he caused the situation that he came from, and to what extent he's about to cause destruction. And then each time he does cause something, it's not necessarily quite his fault, you know.
Right.
Certain things. So in drips, it, you know, until he does do something that is like, you twat, that, you know, that was your fault, you know, and now you fucker, you know. So like you were saying, it gradually builds up the sort of dislike for him versus the lovable rogue thing as the film goes along. Right. Some of the reviews I read were kind of like, oh, you know, you hate this character, but it's like I agree with you. You don't
fully. I think that's reviewers virtue signaling after the fact, right?
Exactly, benefit of hindsight signaling. I always hated him. No, you could hate him a little bit, but then, like the other characters in the film, you go, but you know, oh yeah, that's a good little joke.
I think it's because he's very, in a way, he's very non-aggressive. Like, he's never threatening. He's almost a little bit camp, almost every now and again, even though he's quite well built. So you never feel like he's a physical threat, right? The interesting as well. So the whole grooming thing as well. So I was thinking about that ending, because I was thinking about that ending quite a lot. And the way I kind of read it is, so towards the end of the film, he goes, anyway, he has kind of like, it seems like a bit of a fantasy involving the Susanna Son character. Well, apparently, is, I believe, because she does sing a song and play the. I think she's like an Instagram.
Yeah, she's like
celebrity or something.
I saw a little interview with her. She's very gothic looking. It's completely different looking. Very, very different looking, in fact. But you know, that's what the power of kind of dark makeup and whatnot goes. But yeah.
But that what was kind of interesting about that scene was the way he sees her in the final moments of the film. It kind of makes you rethink the whole film in terms of, because that's clearly not happening, right? The way she's kind of seductively, you know, in the doorway of the house and stuff. Like it's not. I don't think that's actually happening, right? Like that.
Yeah, I was of two minds with that, but yeah, because on the one hand, she could have come out of the trailer and be like, "Hi," and I didn't.
But it's so heightened, right? It's like a Marilyn kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But but I was just like, oh, so is that like we've been seeing her through his eyes this whole time? So it makes you rethink like all the moments in the film where she seems to be seducing him almost rather than the reverse. And it's
Yeah.
quite an interesting. It's kind of like seeing through a predator's eyes in a way, because I think sometimes predators don't see themselves as predators. Like they see wantonness when it's not there, right? Like
Yeah. Because I talked about this with Claire as well, and that's one of the things Claire.
did you watch it?
Yeah. The grooming aspect of it seemed quite realistic, because it was that gradual kind of almost love bombing her and all that, like kind of over compliment, and really just gradually making her, building up her confidence and building up the picture that she had in her mind, and yeah, like you say, in the beginning, although I was different to Claire, but it seemed like, but what you're saying is true. Now that what you're saying, I can see what you're saying now with the first scene that he meets her in the donut shop. There's two sides to that, right? There's the bit where he's looking at her and it focuses on him for the moment. He's going with that weird close up, and then and then she's looking at him all, and then he goes to sit down, and then she's at the till just going about her business, and he's still looking over.
Right.
And so that could be a clue in a way, a visual clue as to one bit was his interpretation, and the other bit's just her going. She didn't really notice him that much.
Because for her, there's this older guy who talks a good game, suddenly out of nowhere shows her attention that she's never been shown before, right? And and it's interesting as well, the whole, when he's talking to his neighbor, he befriends a neighbor who drives him around. He becomes like chauffeur almost, right? And who also ends up in big trouble thanks to him as well. Whenever he's talking about his plans to get her into the industry and shooting a selfie sex video, and there's never any question in his mind that she'll go along with him. But there's actually no point in the film where she clearly concedes to, yes, I will become an adult film actress. In fact, she avoids the question whenever he brings it up, really. She just kind of politely, well, we'll see about that. I mean, she's clearly not into that idea, right?
No, I don't think so. Unless, of course,
you not think so?
No, towards the end, I thought that unless you're taking your fantasy thing, I thought towards the end it was quite. But you might be right that, because he hooks you on board as an audience member.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what's kind of quite clever about it, right? And it's a film, I think, that has. When I saw it, I enjoyed it all the way through. But then when it finished, I was slightly, and I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. But it's a film that I've thought about a lot since, and it's kind of gone up in my estimation a little bit. And I would quite like to watch it again one day, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's.
Was his friend? Sorry, the one with the beard, the neighbor. Is that Ernesto? Was it? I'm trying to.
Sorry?
Ernesto, was it that guy?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just checking here. Now he's only been in that. He was a good actor.
Yeah, I also really liked Brittany Rodriguez, the drug dealer's daughter.
Yeah. I'm just checking her now because she. Yeah. Okay. She's only been in that as well. She's.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Simon Rex is the only one with substantial credits to his name.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's just good. I mean, Brittany, she just constantly. She's the only one. She was almost like the only character who fully sees through the facade at every
from
point.
The beginning.
She's like the antagonist of the film in a way, because, and we won't give away the ending, but yeah.
There's a great scene when he's explaining to her he's trying to explain face fucking to her,
Oh yeah.
and she's just looking at him like, this is way too much information. Like,
Yeah.
just stop talking now. And he just doesn't get it, right?
Yeah.
He thinks he's being, again, he thinks he's being slight, you know, charming in a slightly, oh, I'm being a little bit naughty, I'm stepping over the line.
Yeah.
But it's just, in this context, it's just gross. I didn't ask you, shut up, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah, it's that weird thing of in a film as well, which you don't get that, you don't always get films that do this well, but how as an audience member you can watch someone who, if you were in that situation, you can find someone interesting or enthralling even or whatever. If you were in that situation, all you would want to do is get away from this fucking twat who doesn't stop going on about, if I was in that conversation, where he's going on about how, actually it's the, it's the men that do the most in porn. And, and there's so much technique to Facebook. If I was in that conversation, I'd just, will you fucking shut up? I hate. But it's funny, you give so much of the benefit of the doubt to people when you've got that.
It's a strong performance from him. Again, that's something I think he arrives on screen so fully formed. I hadn't really thought about that until afterwards as well, just thinking how good his performance is as well, because the pitch is just right. Like you said, you don't hate him. You're kind of rooting for him to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Because you see all the other characters through his eyes as somewhat peripheral, as a means to an end, and then it slowly dawns on you, oh no, you fucked up these people's lives again.
Yeah. So again, it's that thing. It's the expectations of cinema. You know that, without a doubt, this is the protagonist. So you kind of, you give them all this sort of stuff that they don't necessarily deserve. And in a typical Hollywood film, you often do that, and then they don't sort of, I don't know, they don't deserve it either. But kind of in this one, but that's that contract is, that they don't deserve it, but at the same time they'll take it. Whereas in this in this film, he doesn't deserve it, and then you kind of like it's understood by the end. Yeah, okay,
right.
We he's kind of shortchanged us as well,
Yeah.
just like he did with everyone else. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I'm very interested to see what Sean Baker does next as well, because I haven't seen all of it, but over the films I've seen, it's kind of interesting to slowly, I've noticed him finding his own identity as well. So I think with Tangerine, for example, there were certain elements reminded me of like John Waters or Paul Morrissey a little bit. Okay. And then Florida Project was him moving slightly more away from that, but it was still elements. And with this as well, so it feels more as if he's coming into his own, right? So I'm very excited to see what Sean Baker's next film will be. I think he's someone to keep an eye on, right? Like,
Well, I've also thank you for alerting me to it. I'm going to have to. Well, I meant to watch that film, whatever it's called.
Florida
Project.
Yeah, check out Tangerine. I can't speak to his other films. I haven't seen them, but maybe they're all worth watching. I don't know. Anyway, right. We'll jump off, is it, and come back on. Yeah.
Recording stopped.
And I'll jump off.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Recording in progress.
Now, allow me to sit back and relax while Robin does the plot for
Maybe I'll just read it off IMDb.
Well played,
I
sir.
think it might be a savage satire with
if memory
ghosts.
serves.
Yeah, it's basically a real estate public service announcement with ghosts, isn't it? I think, or it's a real estate film with ghosts, and it follows the plight of one character. I've forgotten his name now. Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy.
That's Wang Yu Man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wang Yu Nam.
Yu Nam Wong.
Wang Yu Nam, yeah.
Yu Nam Wong.
Wang Yu Nam.
No, it says you know. Forget it. Anyway.
No, you're on the IMDb.
Yeah, I'm on the IMDb.
Yeah, so they do it. They do it.
They do the other way around. Oh,
they
okay.
do. Yeah, but
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter. I would say Wang Yao Nam.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, he's
you can say whatever,
he's
Jimmy.
an estate agent, and you sort of semi-follow him. I can't remember how it starts, but it starts with the
narrative.
yeah, with a kind of very fragmented narrative, swings backwards and forwards in time, almost kind of without very much thought to it. But it starts with a family, and that's quite good. But it starts with a family, and the old lady. Oh, who's that? I meant to look her up. Is she actually that? I wanted to look her up before. Again, I think she's not got a picture. But
she may be an old.
Oh no, she's there. Yeah, so she must be an old Susan Shaw or Susan Yam Yam Shaw. Gosh, so she is pretty old, in fact. But
there's a few former like starlets. There's Candy Wen, Bonnie Ngai, Teresa Mack are in there as well.
Yeah. Anyway, so she plays this very old mother, wealthy mother, and all her children are sitting around, hoping that she's going to die, and it turns out she is actually dead, and then her face goes incredibly big.
Yeah. Her head just suddenly inflates.
Yeah.
She murders most of her children.
All of them except the one who didn't want her to die in order to receive the inheritance. She just wanted her to have a holiday.
That's Rachel Lee. Used to be Loletta Lee, who I used to have a thing for back in the day.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you seen her in then?
Oh, she was in a whole bunch of things going back to the 80s. So, and she was the kind of young, cute girl in lots of films, right, in the 80s and 90s.
Okay, I wonder if
she was very popular here, actually, oddly enough. She was quite popular in Japan.
I'm not sure if I'd have to look. No, nothing rings that much of a bell. Anyway, so and then we follow this Jimmy, the estate agent, who's going around trying to sell different houses, which eventually includes this house where this old lady murdered all her children, and it's basically an exploration of the world's most expensive place to live in, which is Hong Kong. Which is not a very nice place to live by the looks of it, in terms of, I mean,
well, not now, certainly.
Well, what do you mean? Just what, because of all the ghosts?
Well, just in terms of that it's slowly getting devoured by the panda, right, to the north, as in the mainland takeover of Hong Kong.
Oh, you mean, okay, with China's, yeah, but I mean that happened a while back, and besides which, I think it was like,
I think it's ongoing, right?
Before, it was like a kind of capitalist nightmare before. Anyway.
Yes, you're quite right. Yeah, it's actually, this film's a little bit weird in terms of one of the reasons I wanted to watch this as well is, number one, it's unusual to see a full-on Hong Kong style Hong Kong film recently, right? Because everything's slowly, well, not slow, everything's going towards the mainland, right? Like they have
Right,
to
yeah.
please the mainland.
Yeah.
They always have mainland co-stars and they have mainland friendly plots and stuff like that, right? So it's quite nice it's sad as well, but to see this kind of last gasp of like, this is a real crazy Hong Kong film, right? Which I'm sure isn't playing in the mainland.
Right.
Right.
Well, they didn't do that thing, the explanation at the end. Ghosts aren't real.
Exactly.
And some people find that they believe in them, but yeah.
Yes.
So
see earlier day release for more details.
Yeah.
Ed.
I don't know what number it was, but yeah. So and I was expecting that, and but it was an interesting exploration of what what's going on in terms of housing in Hong Kong, which I then looked up, and like I say, world's most expensive property market. And
there's another character,
these nano homes and stuff where.
Yeah, there's another character as played by Tai Bo, right, who turns out to be Jimmy's dad. And he's like this landlord who's like subdivided his property once again, right, and partitioned, and people are living in these horrible little cubby holes, right?
Yeah.
And he has to deal with his own ghosts in the form of this little boy that they have to kind of. The whole rehousing the ghosts thing was a little confusing to me.
What you mean the thing where or the rehousing the ghosts, or the bit I didn't understand the plot where the estate agent had to fill an empty council block to make it look busy. I didn't understand what that was.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because one of the things I liked about it was all the ghosts were as equally as sort of property obsessed as the people.
Right.
So they were all like, do you need a down payment for this? Even the kid who's called Kung, he says you can go and live in this lovely. When he's talking about rehousing the kid, and you have a lovely view of the sea, and he's like, what materials are used in this house, or something? It's like, oh, lovely ones, linen.
I suppose the one that stands out is they call him the Beanstalk ghost,
Beanstalk,
right? By Paul Chair, who's like a butcher or something, right? And he's got a cleaver, and his wife's skeleton is in one of the walls, and so it's a very odd so this is directed and co-written by Fruit Chan, his latest film, and Fruit Chan's kind of an interesting a director. We talked on the other podcast, Magic Morning Wood, about one of his films before, The Longest Summer. And he's made, I suppose he's most famous for that movie Dumplings and Hollywood Hong Kong. And he does make these quite oddball, sometimes a bit kind of, not necessarily a little bit ramshackle.
It was pretty ramshackle.
Because I think he's more about he likes kind of so there's a lot of set pieces in this which are quite fun, right? Like where there are all these decapitated people walking around spewing blood and like that kind of thing works quite well, but it doesn't necessarily gel together as a whole thing, right?
No, it's sort of anarchic, but it's hard to tell whether it's supposed to be a comedy or a satire or what. Some bits were amusing, and then others are sort of like plods along a bit. We did break it up a bit, partly just because I just had loads of interruptions because I was watching it today.
Okay.
And the kids are off school, so. But
they enjoy?
Huh? They didn't
they
watch it. No.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the kind of the real estate type thing. I started find myself getting into it eventually, just hoping that more ghosts would sort of talk shop with the things. That's the bit I liked the most. Really was when the ghosts were sort of and who's this buyer that you've got or whatever, that sort of thing. Like
It's funny. It's that kind of film as well. We were talking about this, about how you expect different things from different film markets as well. So you're tolerant of something. We'll get to this with RRIs, but you're tolerant of something in a certain style from a certain place, but from somewhere else you wouldn't accept it, right? And I think in the case of Coffin Homes, like there's no doubt it's as satire, it's extremely unsubtle, heavy-handed, and ham-fisted, right? But the thing is, I don't think it's supposed to be anything other than that, right? Like, I don't think they're going for subtlety, so I don't think you can ding it for not being subtle, because I don't think it's trying to be, right?
No,
like, it's just...
It's
also just...
It's not really funny, but...
Not really, no. But it's not annoying. It doesn't have grating humour, right? It's not annoying.
But talking about the context, whether it would be... But it's also... If it was, say, because, we've got a similar problem, if you look at the ranks of property markets in the world, London is up there, close to Hong Kong, but, in terms of the disparities and stuff. So what kind of some of the humor, I wondered about how, like, it was, how fun it would be to that Hong Kong particular audience as well.
Yes, I think it probably makes a lot more sense, right? There's and plus the other thing I picked up a little bit, I might be wrong about this. I might have been reading into it something that isn't there, but thinking of the current political situation in Hong Kong as well, there's a few moments where some character talks about buying property because I'm a patriot, right? And I was wondering if some of these people coming in and buying up all the land, it's maybe mainland tycoons rather than Hong Kong people, right? So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of that in there as well. There's a little bit. I can't imagine you would make a film in Hong Kong nowadays without you can't avoid mentioning the takeover or having a little jab at it in some form or another.
So you think they're having a jab at it, or because the thing is, from what I read, that you can only the part of the problem is Hong Kong, you can only build on 7% of the land. It was a British colonial person, I think, who designated large parts of with the mountains and the lovely scenery, for walking and recreation, and
the very Victorian, forgetting the air,
exactly, clearing one's vapors and
away from the yellow savages,
exactly, go away from your restore your go out for your constitutional and walk the mountains, and then but then that's stuck, and so they can't build, so that's what, and then sort of capitalism has crept in over the years, and you've got now a handful of, so a lot of the people who do still own a lot of the property in Hong Kong are ex sort of colonial but Hong Kong people, are not necessarily British.
Don't get me wrong, that the whole cutthroat ultra capitalist side of it, that's not a new phenomenon. I think
I wasn't saying that. I'm just talking about what you were saying about whether it was patriotic. I wonder whether that's referring to patriotic in terms of being patriotic towards the old colonial side, or being patriotic as a sop to the Chinese side. I don't know which one.
That could be a valid gag as well, either way, right? It could be that character's made to look kind of foolish, or in a way like we've stuck between a rock and a hard place kind of thing, right? Like we've never really had we were either this, we had a short window of time where it was ours, and now it's not anymore.
But I think what's happened now is that there's there's some influx of like Chinese, mainland property developers as well, trying to kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. It's but it, you know, other places like Singapore and stuff, you know, are much more in favour with you know, so it's sort of Detroitifying a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, some pictures I looked at looked quite nice, but yeah, in that
Well,
film they made it look quite horrible everywhere, really.
yeah, or very just exhausting, right? Just
Yeah, yeah,
existing seemed exhausting. But then again, I mean, Hong Kong's a bit, having only been there, it's a bit kind of the charm of the place in a way. I get this feeling there's a kind of ruthless, mercantile kind of, but it's somehow there's something honest about it, so you don't necessarily get angry about it. You just kind of you go with it, and clearly it's been a, you know, Hong Kongers, I think in general, are a very hardy bunch of survivors. So
yeah.
we'll see how this. I mean, clearly, my heart goes out to them because it's.
But well,
it's
it was like a refugee city in a way, wasn't it? You know, for people who escaped the mainland China. That's what I read, anyway.
Okay.
Although that could be from a Western point of view, but you know, it was a refugee. So everyone in Hong Kong saw themselves before, you know, the reunification, or whatever. So as you know, as sort of survivors from, you know,
Oh yeah, I mean, even
China,
people like, you know, the Vietnamese boat people and stuff like that go in there, right, at a certain point, and I think it's always been an enclave because it's a different ethnic kind of group as well, the like Canton as opposed to, you know, north of Canton is a. So anyway, we're probably talking about things we don't understand, so we might
very much so.
Doing that.
Yeah, but it was interesting that, you know, in a way.
Yeah,
right.
But I'm actually I would watch Coffin Homes again. Actually,
Would
I
you?
have to say, because because it's such a mess in some ways, but there's a lot in there that was interesting, and I quite enjoyed it. It's trying, so and for me, there's a little bit of nostalgia there as well, because it's just like, how many more Hong Kong films like this are we going to get? Right? It's So how did you get on with it then? What was your?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was okay. I don't know if I'd watch it again.
I just want to make sense of it.
It was the whole thing had this sort of feeling that I was in a cinema. Wasn't in a cinema, but it had a feeling that I was in a cinema with loads of imaginary people who are from Hong Kong cracking up, and I'm there going, "Hey, yeah," you know, that's the whole way. Yeah, you know, it was, you know, it felt like, you know, I felt a bit culturally alienated from it a little bit, you know,
right.
Whereas, like we were saying before, sometimes, you know, if films are from a different country, you might, you know, invest certain things in them that you give them the benefit of the doubt when you wouldn't with other films.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that might be in play here, right?
I enjoyed certain bits of it, but at the same time, I did, you know, it felt like, you know, the purpose of this film seemed to be to make you crack up like uncontrollably, and that wasn't happening. Sort of thing. But it was there were definitely some enjoyable parts. So I did like the characterization in a way, but yeah, a lot of the kind of like over the top, in your face stuff, apart from the bit you were talking about the heads and stuff, I got into that, but sometimes there were some very sweet bits and stuff. Yeah, there were definitely bits I liked, and whether I would sort of watch it again, I don't know.
The CGI is a bit dodgy, but that wasn't really a problem because of the overall tone of the film, I think. Like,
yeah, it was, you know,
and some of the makeup was a little bit, I don't know, like it was a bit like, oh, he's wearing some makeup, as opposed to he's a ghost, or you know.
Some of it was good, but I don't know. It was just sort of like I say, it seems to be a very specifically Hong Kong satire
and a bit of a retro
market.
thrill. I think if you've ever, grown up, if ever, insane Hong Kong cinema has ever been part of your cinematic diet in the past, I think you might get an extra
Yeah,
of
you probably got
that kind
that.
of thrill from the, yeah.
I don't know what whether how much of films like that I've seen from Hong Kong before.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it had that slight kind of crazed vibe of films of the 90s or something, where you didn't know where it was going to go next, you know?
Yeah.
Or you were watching like something like a Wong Jing film or something that was like marketed as a romantic comedy, and then you watched it and there's like car chases and monsters in it, and you're like, what's going on now?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't necessarily expect a lot of the stuff that happened in that film. I definitely liked the most. I think I liked the subdivided apartment situation, and the
right,
the kind of that overheated living environment there, and the sort of stuff that was going on there, and the ghost train that they did or whatever, the sheep train, the kids and stuff. That was that was fun. That little it was the little kid cuts his intestines open, and he's like walking around going, "Oh, you cut my intestines open."
It's also, I got the feeling, it's got that kind of feeling to it. As you said, it's anarchic, but also it's like, it really feels as if people were kind of pulling together to kind of make the best film that they could, in a way. Like, it has that slight camaraderie about it.
Yeah, it
feeling.
does. Yeah,
Might be wrong, but
like they were, a shoestring budget, and also like they filmed it on weekends or something. Over ages.
It's scrappy, right? But
also like, oh, just get this bit done. There's a bit of that,
right.
To it. Some of it's more kind of, some of it's slower, and then other bits are kind of like, feels like, right, we've got 2 hours to shoot this scene. Just spray as much blue paint.
Yeah. And also, I was wondering, in terms of this kind of slowly ongoing mainlineization of Hong Kong Island as well. Like, I think at this point you can just about make this movie under the radar, not for release in the mainland, just for Hong Kongers, and hopefully some international distribution. But I'm wondering, as it progresses, this, like, in say 5 years, maybe you couldn't make this film anymore. Like, or if you did, it would get banned, or just.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I guess that remains to be seen, doesn't it? Really, what goes on, but
So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, I did enjoy the film to a certain extent, as even though it is a mess as well. But I think I also slightly like have such goodwill towards a film like this, and at this time, it's like, come on, it's like you really want it to succeed, and I'm glad Fruit Chan made this film now. It's a little bit of a kind of, it feels a little bit subversive, or a kind of call to arms, or just a little kind of not going down quietly, right? Like,
okay, well, I mean, it's difficult to know unless whether there is or would be a reaction to it. I mean, did you manage to read anything about whether it was,
you mean in terms of censorship?
Yeah, censorship, or even just media in China and things,
No, well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Anything like that. How would we know? I mean,
I that's what I mean. I think at this certain time, I think you can just about get it. I think it's just, it comes out and they just ignore it and it goes away. And that's what I mean. I think now you could just about squeeze something like this out, where I'm just saying, as it becomes more and more under control, I'm wondering if it's the kind of film you couldn't even get done in a few years' time, right? Whereas now there's a slowly closing window Yeah, I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but
I have
that's how
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I like no idea. So yeah, I can't speak to that at all. I mean, I would have to be able to. I think I would have to be able to read, you know, Chinese newspapers and stuff like that to get to grips with.
Good luck with that.
Like that. Yeah,
Good luck with
I'll
that.
just quickly. Actually, I'll do that before the next episode.
I'll just do that over the weekend. I'll do Cantonese on a Sunday and Mandarin on a Monday.
Yeah, just get it out. Be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Right. So I suppose we should go to another part of the world we don't know anything about. Really.
Yeah.
And so this was of the three. This seemed to be the one you were most keen on seeing.
Yeah.
This was your selection, right?
Yeah. Partly because I used Blender, and it had come onto my. I hadn't actually heard of it, but it had come onto my radar through learning that it was mostly it was the company. I've forgotten the name of the company, but I think it's an English person who's the head of that company, but they did the VFX for it, and most of
Blender,
that,
you said?
Yeah, Blender.
Okay.
And that in itself, is interesting because because Blender's open source, and there's an anarchic kind of, the Blender company is based in Holland, I think. Anyway, but they're all kind of like, everyone gets paid, roughly the same or something. They're kind of like a really, socialist kind of company in a way.
Technologies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and the founder of Blender is really cool. Like, yeah, sure, it's just great. Yeah, Dutch. I think he's Dutch anyway.
What you want? Yeah, right.
But I just.
Oh no, we're back on. I thought we'd get through one episode without accents, but
no, we're gonna do some. Anyway, but he's and any film that uses Blender. Some films use drips and drabs of Blender, but any film that like really goes for it, like this one did, and mostly use it, is quite an anarchic act in a way.
Okay. Have you have you ever used Blender yourself?
Yes, I used Blender for the thing I did for our war episode where I blew us up.
All right, I was going to ask. That was Blender.
That was all Blender, yeah.
Right.
And looking at the breakdowns, I don't want to get too boring and technical about it, but I didn't realize quite how much of this was all Blender. Like you shoot like just them and like a handful of people walking through, the city or whatever, and then all of the background is Blender. That shot with the barbed wire, that barbed wire was Blender.
Wow.
Anyway,
just before you continue, Robin, I just realised we haven't actually said what we're talking about.
Do we have to stop yet? No, anyway.
Not yet. No. It's the film RRR.
Yeah, we're talking about RRR.
Or I guess.
Yeah,
I was a Brilliant Revolution or something.
Yeah, or I've forgotten it as well. Anyway,
that's what we're talking about. Is
yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, that it's pretty popular. That they I think it's somewhere in America or Canada. One of the articles I read was they did one showing and people were queuing around the block, and so then they just showed it again and again and again. And the sort of reception from non-Indian people has been it's not like, top the box office charts or anything, but it's it's definitely got a following that it was unexpected, and because there's always Indian films that have got high action sequences and stuff like that. But
I think with this film as well, it's had a bit of a ramp, right? Because the director S.S. Rajamouli has had
he's had other smaller hits, or hits.
Yeah, well, just before this, he made the two Bahubali movies, right, which were also kind of crossover successes. which I don't know if you watched the Bajubali films.
No.
I watched the first one, and I didn't get on with it that well. I didn't get on with the second one. But before the Bajubali films, he made a film called Yeeee, which I really liked, which was the film about a man who comes back reincarnated as a fly. And then he has to fight to get his woman back from the clutches of another guy. And it's a CGI heavy fly superhero film, which I enjoyed enormously.
Yeah.
It's utterly ridiculous. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so Yeeee was a hit, and then the Bahubali films were just off the charts. And plus, as well, I think this is something we probably aren't that sensitive to, but they're Telugu language films as well, right, as opposed to Hindi films, which I think are the predominant hits, right?
Although this one was a cross, wasn't it? Hindi and Telugu.
Yes. Yeah. No. What I mean is, it's a hit everywhere, but it's originally Telugu language, right?
Yeah.
But it's difficult to tell because I don't think in the case of, so for Yeeee, for example, when they shot Yeeee, I think they actually shot it in at least 2 different, like on the same sets. They shot the film like 2 or 3 times. So the actors had to do everything in 3 different dialects. Whereas I think in the case of this, I think they just I think I saw a Hindi friendly version, I think, with dubbed into, as opposed to Telugu. I can't, obviously I can't really tell the difference, but I think that's important for the Telugu film industry to have these huge box office champs that, like you said, are hits all across India, right? And kind of, they're very much pride for the Telugu film industry, right? That they beat out Hindi films at the box office.
Yeah. Should we do the plot? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you want to do it? It's
well, I suppose again, this is something we wouldn't have known this unless we looked it up, right? But for local, so basically, it's what would happen if these 2 legendary folk heroes had met, right?
Yeah.
Which they never did.
It doesn't seem that they weren't. They didn't. Their timelines didn't quite coincide, did they?
No. And one of theirs, the story, the guy who's the policeman, is totally made up. He was never a policeman.
No.
So anyway, so the 2 characters are Komaran Beam, as played by N.T. Ramarao Jong.
Yeah, or just Junior NTR, isn't it?
Junior, sorry, yeah. I didn't. That was me. Couldn't read my own writing. N.T. Ramarao Jr. And Alluri Sitaramaraju.
Raju, who,
as played by Ram Charan.
I think she's generally that folk hero's called Alluri or in general, or is he called Ram as well?
Yes, Ram Raju, I think, or Alluri Sitaramaraju. Yeah. Okay. So, is like a fantasy version of how these 2 men, had they met in real life, might have banded together finally, eventually, after kind of being, well. So should I mention?
It doesn't. I wouldn't give away too much of the plot. I think people should just go and see it because it's a really fucking good film. But
suffice to say, it is a bit of a it's basically 2 heroes eventually team up against the ever so evil, British Empire in this film. This is not a film of nuance and subtlety when it comes to its villains, is it?
I'm not sure that the British Empire. It might have actually been subtle when it comes to the British Empire, because I think the British Empire might have been, from the things I've read, the British Empire was so bad in terms of the way it treated, could have been.
Oh yeah, but I don't think they ever would have. I don't think they would have spoken in the, they would have tricked them. I don't think they ever would have said things like, "Don't waste a bullet on this brown
Well, I
garbage.
don't know. That might have actually. You know what? I wouldn't put it past them, but because there's some of the things I've read are are like that. But having said that, one of the ways it's not subtle is what I quite like as well. I don't know how many Indian films you've seen with colonial British people in it.
Right.
But I've only seen a few. But it's like they always because one of the actors in this has been in loads of stuff.
Ray Stevenson,
Ray
right?
Stevenson,
Actor.
yeah. But his acting's it seems deliberately hammy in this. I think it's that's what they want. They want the British actors to be either to conform to a certain type. So that's quite nice as well. It's a bit like being. I would love to do it. I'd love to be in one of these.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the guy in the dance in the
I may have mentioned this before.
You dance like a fucking wanker. Whatever he says.
Yeah. I may have mentioned this before as a kind of a good example because, of course, this has happened to me on a smaller scale. I've ended up with parts in Japanese films, and it's you feel you're never given like enough age. It's pretty much kind of do it this way as opposed to coming up with your own way of doing it. Do you know what I mean? You very much follow you and you don't quite know what to do, and you just do something big and loud, and then they're happy, and the example I always use is Vincent Gallo, right? So Vincent Gallo's a good proper actor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was in a Japanese movie a few years ago called The Human Trust, I think the English title for it was. And I was actually watching it on a plane. And there's the opening scene where there's a main kind of foreign villain character. He's only seen in silhouette, right? And he's pacing back and forth, and he's talking on the phone to someone, and you don't see who it is. And it was such an awful performance. And I didn't know who it was. I couldn't see it. But because I recognized the voice, I thought, oh, this is one of my friends. This is someone I know from the industry. Right? Oh, my God, that's a fucking bad performance. I wonder who it is. And I gave up on the film halfway through because it was boring. My wife ended up watching that film. And then she informed me that character giving a terrible performance was, in fact, Vincent Gallo. So, it can happen to anyone, I think.
Well, do you think I don't know whether they, they try and do it subtly and they go, no, like a bit like in Hollywood Shuffle, like can you make it more,
Yes, I think that is it. I think
more British,
Yeah.
You mean? How do you mean? You mean like this? Oh, shut up! That's it. Shut up,
perfect.
You bloody.
Yeah, exactly.
Bastards.
That is exactly it. I think that's what they want. They want you to bring.
But you see, I would go on set fucking day one. I'm so ready.
Well, that's what I learned. That's what I learned on my first day of the job, doing a reconstruction drama. Was I was all like, I'm going to try and do this, and the play, whatever. More, and I'm like, give them more, and then I decided, right, I'm going to do it so more now that they're just going to laugh and they're going to say, no, tone it down, and I was like, oh my God, something like that, and it was good. And then since that, I was like, okay, from now on, that's the level I'm coming at it from. And I very rarely get asked to tone it down.
Yeah. I was at the first, colonial thing type I watched was called Madrasa Patinam, which was recommended to me by the local, Tamil shop guys, shop owner, and that was all kind of like this really hammy British acting, and I thought, I'd love to do that. I'd love to.
Come on over. I can get you a job.
Yeah. Well, I want to be able to do it in India, really, on it.
Oh yeah.
I want to be one of the colonial ones. Oh, you dirty! This is
Right.
disgusting. I wanted to be
Yes.
that guy. That guy looked a bit like me, so I was annoying. He's younger than me, but, you know,
Did you audition for
the
it?
fucking, you know, oh, you dance like a wanker. That was my line. Stole it from
I
me.
was born to play this role.
Born to play that.
But, so we probably should, now that you mentioned that scene, that's, from what I can tell, that is the big, because actually this film doesn't have that many song and dance numbers in it, right?
No,
It's
it's
got
a
like
couple, really.
2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah.
And from what I can understand, because if you look up on the IMDb, you get but you get Natu Natu, which I think is the official music video from this scene. So I think this is the big set piece song and dance, and it's quite fun. I like the
Really
Natu Natu sequence.
It's really fun.
Yeah, yeah, it is fun. Even though it's so, you know, and it's so, and the whole like all the white men get angry, but all the white women are into it, and like
there's also just but they're all doing it though. I didn't expect that. I thought that all the idea was all the British people would be standing around going, shaking their heads and going, but they all have a go.
Yeah. They all Natu Natu, right?
Yeah.
And it's a fun looking dance.
It
I
is.
think I'd quite like to Natu Natu.
I was thinking of trying to learn it before we did the podcast, but then that's not even anywhere near close. So
yeah. No, I also watching it, I like to think, you know, it was a good example of our own Natu Natu bromance dance that we do on this show.
Yeah.
But our version is a bit more subdued, obviously, but you know,
which
we
one
kind of show our love by dancing at each other.
Yeah, we do. Do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, fine. I'll go with that. Yeah. Anyway, by the way, the Alluri did that part of how he did deliver arms to his villagers. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I read a little bit about both of them.
And he would leave a little note to the British to say how much he'd taken and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's
fuck you, basically.
Yeah. By the way, I stole exactly this, and you'll never catch me again. Yeah, that was good.
Right. No, it was
until we're bloody dead.
But the thing is, it's at this point, it's difficult to take. You know, I don't mind. It's refreshing. I like being the white villain for a change, right? It's quite nice to see that. I'm wondering how this plays with. With local audience is in so much as, I mean, are they just kind of tongue in cheek, kind of enjoying? Let's have a little poke at the white man. It's our turn now. Or if there's actually some kind of people who take it kind of quite seriously and see it as a revenge.
There's a lot of triumphalism, but you know, well, from what I read, it's not the first by any means, sort of anti-colonial, epic-y type thing,
right?
But it's I think it's the highest budget, and that particular director, you know,
right,
with his action sequences and stuff, some really great inventive stuff I don't want to give away because it's so good. You know.
Yeah. Very gravity defying kind of dependent on CGI kind of flights of fantasy.
Yeah, right? But I mean,
but really good fun. Really
good fun. But also just it's like Hollywood tries to emulate it all the time, but they seem to have not been able to catch that. You know, they've missed the boat in a way of that sense of fun. It's like Indian films still got the sort of sense of like fresh kind of inventiveness of early Hollywood, and so they can do all this kind of this.
I think the problem with Hollywood is they get hung up. They get really hung up on the perfectionism of getting the CGI like right and realistic and all that. And the thing is, that stuff, even when it is really well done, much more better done than it is here. This does look a little bit ropey, but it doesn't matter because, like you said, it's fun. And then Hollywood somehow manages to leech all the fun out of it. And then even at the end of the day, I mean, even really, really great CGI done well, it's still
well, you're always going to know, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So you might as well embrace. I prefer this route where you sacrifice a certain polish for imagination and fun. Like you shoot for the moon. It looks a bit rickety. No one cares because it's fun. That's, for me, that makes more sense than no. We're going to painstakingly make this look right.
I'll tell you what, the CGI was actually quite good in most of it. Like the stuff that you wouldn't even notice, like I was saying earlier about the backgrounds and all that stuff, you just wouldn't notice. So you wouldn't have thought that was CGI. The over the top stuff, especially the animals. But you know, just to your point though, with the animals, for example, they'll do things that, you know, most films, Hollywood or, you know, European or whatever, will try and disguise with a bit of darkness or whatever, you know, a bit of lighting and stuff. They'll just plop it straight in and not give a shit. You know, it'll have this type. They were definitely trying to get it right, but there's certain things, animals, you can't, you know, we're so good at recognizing humans and animals, you can't really, like, so some of it was ropey, but it wasn't as, it was also that they hadn't, like, you know, disguised it with camera shake or, you know, lighting things and things like that. It would have been probably more polished by a major studio in Hollywood, but they still would have disguised it somewhat, I reckon.
I think they respect the audience's suspension of disbelief, right? I think they kind of they hand it over to you, and they just, you know, they kind of, they know that an audience is, you know, has that capacity to decide for themselves if they're going to go along with it or not, right?
I have no idea whether they do, but they definitely don't care. That's the main thing. So if they're gonna, you know, throw a line at someone's head, you know, they're gonna do that, and they go ahead and do it in the broad daylight, you know, rather than at night or whatever, you know, that sort of thing. But there was loads of CGI in that film. There was actually most of it was CGI. So the stuff that you noticed is the ropier stuff, but it's not, anyway, you know, it's not all ropey. A lot of it's actually really polished and good,
like you said, maybe the stuff you don't notice more than anything else is like you said, the crowds and stuff. It wouldn't have occurred to me. It that certainly looks, I mean, realistic enough, right? But I mean, obviously it was Indian, so it's a long film. It's 3 hours long. I mean, it's difficult. Again, that's a difficult thing because that's such a normal thing for an Indian movie to be long, that it just seems a bit daft to say it's a bit long because all their films are long. So
I thought it flew by.
Boring.
I thought it flew by. It's also, I did have a break halfway through as well, like, you know, you're supposed to anyway, aren't you? So you know, it's designed for that, whatever, you know.
The only thing I was slightly wondering about as well, this is something that wouldn't have occurred to me. I was just browsing IMDb comments, and who knows if this is just someone being a bit of a dick, but someone mentioned something along the lines of the even though it seems set up, to us it seems like it's India versus the colonial oppressor, right? Pretty much. But someone was mentioning something along the lines of it being, in some way, there might have been some characters who we wouldn't have picked up on, but might have been more the turncoat characters or the villainous characters were more like of this ethnic group more than that ethnic group or something like that.
I read a fair bit about this film because obviously there's the ending, the end song, which has got all these people, these national figures, heroes, and so we wanted to know who those were. Claire got really into it and wanted to know loads of stuff as well. And yeah, the sort of the most kind of, obviously neither of us know pretty much anything about the time of the rush and stuff, and so, but there is it seems like there's a big strain of Hindu nationalism, and the more I read, the more it seemed apparent. Like, so if you look at the national heroes at the end of it, you've got Subhas Chandra Bose, who is a bit of a controversial figure, and so people like Gandhi and Nehru, who we know who Gandhi is, but Nehru was like more of a socialist kind of, similar to Gandhi. So and then when India was partitioned, because the whole population, part of the population is Muslim, and then the rest are mainly Hindu and various others, but that caused all sorts of problems, didn't it? And they sort of drew a fairly arbitrary line, and people didn't quite know where to go. And
well, many people died in the mass migration, right? The exodus.
Yeah, and Gandhi but Nehru was part of trying to help these people, these Muslims, to in that transition period, to give them aid and things like that, and to make sure it was and to just help them in general ways with food and things like that. And there's sort of there seems to be some sort of revisionist thing where Nehru is no longer a hero to the Hindutva type, the Hindu nationalists, so that he's seen as so there's some and Subhas Chandra Bose, where did that say? Was it him? So he was less keen on, so he was more of on the right, and so in fact, having read it quite a fair bit, it does seem like the film has got, because Nehru is conspicuously missing, and there's certain controversial figures where it does seem like there's a fair bit of kind of more of your right wing, especially within the context of Modi, who's in charge at the moment as well.
Exactly, yeah.
There's a fair bit of sort of right wing Hinduish nationalism running through the film, and then that class thing you were talking about, how Beam is sort of like part of the Gond tribe, and so he's like more subservient, and so he's almost equal, and then just towards the end it's sort of reversed on itself, and he's now the one learning from the more cultured and more kind of sophisticated and forward thinking, because Beam just wants to rescue what is his daughter, or his it's
a girl from the village, because
girl
they
from
talk
the village.
about
I can't remember where she's.
They talk about that village is, well, it's particularly that group, the Gond people, right? They talk about how they're sheep, but they have shepherds, right, and all of that. So I was wondering about that, like you said to us, we know.
But these are from articles written by Indian people. They're not my thoughts necessarily. They're just the thoughts of other people who I've been curious to kind of look at and discover, quite what's going on, because that ending song was, so triumphalist and nationalist that kind of draws you into the, to that, and then you find out, oh, okay, there does seem to be this sort of strain of nationalism to the exclusion of all of the, for example, all of the Muslim national rebellious,
Right.
figureheads,
Right.
who aren't
Which
in
is
that
something totally lost on us if we hadn't have looked it up, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where
Yeah.
might stand out to local audiences and be much more problematic, whereas we don't really care.
Because for yours, did you have the disclaimer at the beginning as well with the
Yes, yeah.
and so that's already intrigues you, like, oh, okay, why are you saying this? This disclaimer. So from a political point of view, it's kind of like, no, in a way, it doesn't really matter, but in the same sense, the article that I read, the person was like, yeah, sure, enjoy the film, but they felt quite uneasy about it, and I could totally see their point of view, because in a way, the greater the film, the more power and impact it has. And so if it's got this sort of strain of nationalism running through it in that way, the Hindu nationalism, to the exclusion of others, then I could see how it could be, because so one of the people who's in that was responsible for the revisionism of Nehru, saying that that he shouldn't have helped the Muslims, basically, and that he was a sort of traitor or something, I think.
Right.
Anyway, I won't go too much into it because I'm getting lost. I did all the reading, but I'll just end up having to read.
I know what you mean. It's you learn it and know it for 5 minutes, and then it's gone. Right?
Yeah. But it was,
But no. I think it's worth mentioning all that stuff as well, just because I'm sure other people who would be interested to see this film, that would wash over them as well, right? So it's definitely worth bringing up. Speaking of things at the beginning of the film as well, it's actually unusual. Most recent Indian films that I've seen all have an endless amount of opening credits thanking people who gave them money, and there wasn't that many at the beginning of this one, as I'm used to. It usually goes on for quite a few minutes, right? There's like not just a production company, but there's like, thank you very much, Mr. Shrifnana of such and such company, and then it goes to another one. When's the film gonna start, man? But this this started quite quick. I'm guessing because it's a proper big production. They didn't have to go to that many people to get their budget, right? To get it made.
Could talk about the bit where they meet is very nice, very good. I mean, when they're saving the boy from the
well, that scene is great because it's fun. I enjoyed it, but then afterwards I was thinking, how on earth did they indicate to each other that was the plan? Like, they just go like something, and it's a really elaborate plan of escape, which I'm still not sure, is that really clever and the only way you could have done it, or is it unnecessarily complicated and stupid? And how did they know to do that? I enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah, again, like it was it was a Lurie's kind of a his forward thinking again, though, because he was the one in control of that plan. He was the one that thought to dip the flag in the water.
Well, again, and also we should probably mention there's a flag in that scene, right? And that flag means nothing to us. It's just some colourful flag with some writing we can't read. But I'm guessing that flag is there for a reason. I don't know what that flag is.
The flag is the original flag of the first flag of Indian independence.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then that phrase that people sing or whatever, and is on the flag, I can't remember what it means, but it's one of those phrases. It's like something to do with singing. No, I'm just going to shut up now. But anyway, so it is very significant that he douses the flag in the water and it protects Beam from the flames. I like that. It's very elegant, the way that
Yeah.
he thought of that. You know, again, you know, I don't know. I feel it's very unfair the way that I'll go with films like that and go, yeah, do it. Oh, you're so clever. Well done. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
great. And then if that was Thor doing that,
You'd think I was stupid. Or, yeah.
fucking as it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we are both we're both certainly guilty of like giving too much of the benefit of the doubt. Like if it's a culture alien to us, we're oh yeah, no, that's good.
That's
you know,
brilliant. The way you
but
thought
if it's
of
white
that. How
people
did you
doing it,
manage that?
it's boring and shit. Right? We're race traitors.
Yeah,
That's what some
Thor,
people would call us.
yeah. Thor grabs an American flag and dips in the water. Yeah, that would just burn. It's stupid.
Yeah,
It's
it's
fucking
ridiculous.
set on fire, and he'd be bitten. The flag would stick to his skin. Just shit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But if that brown-skinned man does it,
Yeah.
that's cool. No, I think we're both. But I think that's just. I think for us, it's fresh, isn't it? So it's fresh air anyway.
Yeah.
So and that's fine because maybe that's what happens the other way around as well. You never know. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's like serious Indian film fans who hated and loved Thor.
Yeah.
But,
Well, Rajamouli, he said that in an interview that it was Ben-Hur was his favorite film and the kind of inspiration for this. So.
There's definitely a lot of that in the Bahubali films.
Yeah. He said he watches it every day or something like that. I don't believe.
Wow.
Also,
no, you wouldn't get anything done.
Time.
It's a long fucking film, man.
Yeah. Or no, maybe not every day. Oh, he said he watches it loads, but anyway, okay. I'm not.
Maybe that's why this film took 3 years to make. Yeah. He's in the trailer watching Ben.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, no. Yeah, a lot of. I mean, it's the kind of film that's a hit, and it's totally. Oh yeah, I get it. I understand why that's a hit.
Yeah. It's just very, very entertaining. So. And I can also see why those actors are venerated the way they are, because
they're both very charismatic, right?
Very charismatic, very good looking, and very just because you've got to be able to dance, sing, and act, and do all this sort of fantastic stuff. So it's a bit like. Fred Astaire or something. It's like.
Well, like you said earlier, right? Hollywood, Bollywood, or all the other Tollywoods, all the Indian film industry in general retains that old Hollywood sense of entertainment that Hollywood doesn't do anymore, right?
Yeah. The kind of all-rounder, charismatic kind of all singing, all dancing people. Yeah, they have that kind of that kind of glow in a way that kind of, it's just good to watch, and and it's all pasted on in like bucketfuls of gloss, and they always shine it. The certain bits part of the part. Oh, was it? Because that was another controversial thing. Was he's Ram or Alluri Ram, but he's also becomes Rama, as in Rama and Sita, and his wife's Sita. Right. And there's that bit where so then he's the king of the jungle and all kind of, but also he's silhouetted and looks like Rama from the
yes, when he returns with his bow and arrow, when he turns into Rambo, right?
Exactly. But one of the controversial things about that is that not so long ago, I can't remember where it was, but when it was, but the Muslim temple was burned to the ground by Hindu nationalists, and a what is it? Is it a statue or a memorial of some kind to Rama is put in its place. So it's a highly contentious sort of. So having him transform in that kind of what we're talking about, that old Hollywood style way, where it's sort of like, you know, in old Hollywood, you know, it's so obvious now, isn't it, old Hollywood, but contextually, because you're looking at it with hindsight, you know, when you watch a Marilyn Monroe film and then they put the glow on her skin and stuff like that, you know, and she's kind of shining and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, that's very obvious now to look at, but so they do that all the time, and in especially in that scene that's loaded with as much glossy, shiny, triumphalist stuff. That's like the key scene where he's there, like his bow and arrow, you know, silhouetted and all that. There's shit going, you know, kind of just as much, I don't know what pizzazz as you could possibly put in one sort of iconic image.
I think that's the word, isn't it? Is iconic, maybe.
Iconoclasm or whatever. But anyway, but then that turns out that's actually fairly contentious as well, because not so, I don't know when it was. If I could get that article, I might be able to have a look.
Well, the interesting thing as well, I was thinking about this, looking these two guys up briefly as well, is I'm always interested in other, because I'm sure this is, well, I know it's not, because I saw a few examples listed. These are not the first, movie takes on these characters as well, right? So it would be kind of interesting to go back and see, you know, older Komarambin or Ram Raju movies and see how the image of that person has changed over the years, or depending on cultural trends or whoever's making it, or, you know, there might be, I'm sure someone must have done like a proper serious, you know, historical take on both characters, right?
On the Wikipedia page, I wanted to watch that actually. There is an Alluri Sitarama Raju. It's 1974.
I mean, I'm sure there's more than. I mean, Wiki's always just scratching the surface, right? So I'm sure there's probably half a dozen to choose from, right? But anyway, even that aside, even if you don't want to go down all those rabbit holes, it's a fun film. It's just a fun film. I enjoyed it a great deal.
Yeah, I loved it. Loved it. I was extremely entertained. Yeah, I'd probably watch it again. But yeah, there we go.
Right, so I think that's probably us.
That'll be done. Yeah. Should we do some accents?
So yeah, we haven't done. Let's talk about Brenda. It's really great. I don't know what accent I'm doing.
Is that Christopher
I don't know.
Walken.
I was kind of copying whatever you were doing, which is Danish Sean Connery or something.
Yeah, that was Danish Walken. Christopher Walken, probably. Yeah.
Shoved a gold watch up your ass.
You grab the head like this. This is how you make a cool porn film, yeah?
It's crazy. Right. That's definitely too much.
We did well.
Here we go then.
Yeah.
See you next time, Robin.
Next time.